Mesdames et messieurs, the greatest festival of our contemporary society, the Olympic Games, is about to begin. This is going to be close.
Oh! They're all completely gassed! They've given it everything on the global bucket! Oh, yeah! Go! Oh!
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. But that is an Olympic championship.
Ready.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Keep the Flame Alive, the podcast for fans of the Olympics and Paralympics. If you love the games, we are the show for you. Each week we share stories from athletes and people behind the scenes to help you have more fun watching the games. I am your host, Jill Jaracz, joined as always by my lovely co-host, Alison Brown. Alison, hello, how are you?
I am in a mood today because and not a bad mood. I was listening back to our Patreon show and I came up with a great idea for LA. And I hate to say this because it was us. I was laughing so hard listening to myself that it was embarrassing. So if you really, really want to laugh, become a patron, please, because you want to hear it, because it was like I wasn't listening to us. I was laughing so hard.
That patron episode reminds me of your bathroom story in Beijing, which I will occasionally go back and listen to and laugh and laugh and laugh. I can't stop laughing over that one. So yes. And then you came up with a visual to go with it that made me laugh even more.
I did. And I'm going to post that visual today on Instagram so that you even get a bigger tease on this one, because we make the Olympics and Paralympics fun.
Yes. And you know, speaking of weird, wacky fun that we have, last week we were talking about Toyota ending its top sponsorship, and listener David messaged me on X and goes, "What's going to happen to Mike and Maya?" Immediately, I appreciate the concern, David. And I had to think about it for a bit. And I thought, well, if they're still together, which hopefully they are, maybe they are, maybe they aren't, young love. But I would hope that Mike is no longer in need of the robot.
It was a broken leg. It
Yes.
wasn't a permanent injury.
Right. So he should be able to be robot free, hopefully by now. So we'll see.
And Maya's dad will drive him over in, what was it, the other truck that he was in that commercial?
Chevy? Was that the Chevy Silverado?
So.
Okay. But anyway, yeah, good times. I cannot wait to see what we come up with in Paris. Paris, I hope you're ready for us. Oh, today, oh my gosh, I am so excited that we can call this person TKFLASTAN. Today we're talking with American sprinter Kenny Bednarek. Kenny won silver in the 200 meters in Tokyo, and earlier this month he was part of the squad that won the World Athletics Relay Championships, qualifying Team USA for the men's 4x100 meters in Paris. Not on the team yet, but he got the quota spot for them. And last weekend, Kenny won the 200 meters at the Prefontaine Classic, and he also won at the Wanda League in Doha earlier this year too. He is on a tear. This is so exciting. We met him at the Media Summit, and we talked with him longer. Take a listen to our interview with Kung Fu Kenny. Kenny Bednarek, thank you so much for joining us. Okay, we have done baton handoffs, and I'm really curious about track starts. What makes a good start? Let's break it down. So when you come out onto the field, what happens?
I mean, you always have to get ready in your starting blocks, and I guess for a prime example, one of the best starters that people could see to date is Christian Coleman, and he comes out like a bullet. But when I tend to get on the blocks, my main focus is, I get my steps in, set my blocks, and then once they sit a set, my sole focus is just pushing forward, because a lot of people don't push forward. They tend to go upward instead of going forward. And if you're going up when you start the block, you're already losing time, because milliseconds matter. So for good starting blocks is get to your set position. Once the gun goes off, you go forward, get a forward motion. And I don't know if I can really show with my hands, but what the goal is in order to push forward is to have your angles low. You don't want to have a lot of air time. So a lot of people tend to cycle their legs all the way back behind their butt. But what you tend to want to see is kind of this motion, you push forward, and then you're supposed to like look like you're in a drive. So you want to have a good drive phase. You don't want to have that backward motion where you're butt kicking, because all that is going to take, when you have your legs going all the way to the back of your butt, the time it's going to take for your knee to hip angles to get up, it's going to take forever. So what my coach Naz usually says is knee to hip, knee to hip, knee to hip when I get out of the block. So that's just knee parallel to the hip, and that's your sole focus getting out of the block. So work on your drive phase to like 30 to 40 meters, and then you stand straight up, and then you start running. In a way, it's kind of like a build up out of the block starts.
Okay, sprinters tend to be tall, so I'm thinking knee to hip. Where is that? That's a lot of space to get knee to hip height. So where is that power coming from?
Well, I would say the power is coming from, because of the way I've started thinking about it, it's like, if I just focus on getting my knee up, gravity is automatically going to bring it down. So you got to think of your body as a slingshot. So as soon as you bring your knee up, it's automatically going to go down unless you're controlling it to go, down or whatever. So when I'm sprinting, I just like, what I do is certain reps, not even just out of the blocks, but if I do like a tech start or something like that, where I'm in 3-point stance and I just go out and run all the way to 60 meters, I just focus like, okay, get my legs up, and everything else is going to come with it. It's the same thing where people are saying, hey, for most athletes, they don't know how to use their arms properly. And that used to be me when I was in like high school and college. I would just use all my legs, and yeah, I'm running fast, but I could run faster if I tend to use my arms and swing, because how the brain is, its brain up here goes all the way down. So if I'm swinging my arms, my legs are going to follow. So you're thinking about being more explosive. So the more explosive you get with your arms, the more explosive your legs are going to get.
So the 200, you're starting on the curve as opposed to the 100 where you're starting straight. How does that change how you start? And just how does that change the race in general?
I mean, for me, it changes a lot because, like I said before, I'm not one of the best starters in the 100. I think this year I finally figured it out on how to get better, pushing forward, having a better drive phase. But for me, since we're at a stagger and I always have somebody in front of me, what I always thought in my head, and I don't do that more so now because the competition's gotten a lot better, but I tend to say, okay, I got 2 to 3 people ahead of me in the stagger. Technically, we're all in the same, we're starting at the same spot. And once I go, if I catch them by like 40 to 50 meters, then I know I'm doing something right. So I usually just do the same thing that I do in the 100, but I think it's more of a mental thing that just clicks better doing the 200 than the 100. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing different from it at all. But for me, it changes a little bit.
So glad you brought up the mental thing, because I was thinking, what does that do when you can see people in front of you and people behind you? So,
I mean, even with this race, it was funny because I had 3 teammates of mine. So, we had 4 teammates from Star Athletics, and we all train together. And I picked lane 7 because I was like, okay, I don't really want to have to try to catch them. I'm better off trying to run away from them. So I had the one guy ahead of me, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not really worried about him because I know who he is and all that stuff. And I know what form he's at right now. And my teammate not yesterday, but before the race, he's like, you better not mess up. And I was like, yeah, I got it. So in my mind, I'm just like, okay, you just catch me if you can kind of mentality. So I got on the block starts and I knew they were gunning for me. So I just ran as fast as I could.
When you start in the curve, how does the block set you up? Because the block is kind of straight.
Yeah,
but even if you can angle it, I mean,
yeah,
how does that work?
Some people tend to angle it. So for me, I kind of angle it a little bit towards not the outside, but the inside of the turn. And it also kind of depends on where you're at, because, if you're in lane 7, and then if you're in lane, 1 or 2, it's going to be different. But yeah, usually I'm in 6 or 7, and I tend to angle it into the turn. So yeah, that just helps out with a little bit, just getting out of the blocks, and then just trying to get that momentum built up and all that. Some people don't. I know in the past in high school, I used to not really care. I kind of just did whatever. But being at this level, all the small things matter.
Is 7 your favorite place?
Yeah, 7 is my favorite lane right now. So
Why?
I mean, it hasn't failed me. I ran some pretty good times in lane 7, and It's also just easier, depending on the track, it's easier to run in lane 7 because I don't have to run as much curve. If you're lane 6, 5, 4, it can be a little bit more difficult to get into the turn. And it requires much more energy trying to get off the turn, off the bend. That's why you see most people are in like lane 1, 2, or 3. It's like a death sentence because it's like, okay, you got to put so much more energy getting off that bend. And then by the time you get on the straightaway, you're going to, your energy is going to be spent because getting off the turn, it's a lot of energy distribution. If you time it right, then you're good on the backstretch. But sometimes if you just do way too much in the first half, then the second half, you're gonna have nothing there.
I want to ask you a question about Doha. You ran a personal best.
Yeah.
When you're doing a race like that, how much do you know during the race in terms of, my time is going to be better than I've ever gotten?
I didn't know that I was going to break a PB, but I knew that I was in great shape. And I was telling the interviewers there, like, they asked the same question. I was like, well, my teammate was Courtney Lindsay, and he was the guy that was behind me. And he ran 19.7, beat Tobogo, and he ran 19.8. And I think it was Tom Jones I forget what race it was. Tom Jones at Gainesville, a couple weeks back. So I was like, okay, well, we train together. And if he's at that pace, I know I'm a little bit faster than him right now. Or, we're at the same level. So in my mind, I was like, if he's there, then I'm there. I just haven't been able to get on the track and put it down yet. So right before the race, the day before, we did our pre-work and I felt great, felt loose. And then the day of the race, I'm not gonna lie, but I got to the track and usually you stretch for about 30 to 20 minutes. And I really didn't do that much because as soon as I got on the track, I was warming up and I was like, wow, I already feel loose. I told my coaches, like, I'm not trying to do too much because, if you overstretch, that can also be a hindrance. So I was like, yeah, let me just warm up, not do too much. Get ready for the race. And I was like, I already know I'm going to throw something hot. I just didn't know exactly what it was going to be. My goal was to get the world lead, but, I did that, but I also broke a PB. So
You talked about picking lanes. Do you always get to pick a lane? At the Olympics, do you get to pick a lane?
no, Olympics, you don't get to pick a lane. When it comes to trials and like worlds and all that stuff, that just kind of they go off of your performance at that race. So, you got the big Q, the small Q, those matters. So when you go through rounds, people want to get top 2 because top 2 get the preferred lanes. The preferred lanes, 5, 6, 7. And, if you get the little Qs, then you might get like 8 or 4 or something like that. But when it comes to like when I travel to Diamond League, when I travel to a World Continental or any other race where it's just like a one-off, that's when they're like, hey, if we got me and we got, let's say, Andre and then Noah, they're going to be like, okay, well, Noah's the world champion, the 100-2. He gets preference first. So Noah will pick his lane. And then it's just, well, who's done something after that? Okay, Kenny, he's got 2 silver medals, or last year he didn't medal or something like that. So he gets third choice. Or last year, if I did medal, he gets second choice because, he got second. So it just depends on who's there. So usually if it's me, I get preference. And then I think Andre, he didn't do anything last year because whatever was going on with him. So, he gets second choice because it's Andre. They also sometimes just go off of, personal best. If there's nobody in the race that's medaled, they'll just go off of current time. Like, okay, this person ran 2011, give him lane, whatever. He gets to choose this lane, that lane, because, all the guys are running like 2030, 2040 or whatever. But yeah, when we get to trials, then we get to Olympics and Worlds, that's all just like, okay, you better get the big Q because everybody's going to be gunning for that. So that's why sometimes when you watch races, I think there was a time where, I think 2 years ago when I was coming back from injury and I was at the trials, I think Matthew Bowling was in my heat. And I was honestly trying to conserve as much energy as I could. But then he decided to just run. A lot of the college kids like to just run and try to beat whoever's in that race. And then I was like, dang, like, he's hauling right now. Should I let him beat me? And I was like, nah, I got to get the win. So then I, ran a little bit faster, edged him out, and then I got a better lane.
I want to talk about relays because you also had a little bit of a hand in the U.S. qualifying for relays in Paris.
Yeah, finally. Thanks.
And one of the announcers called you the best second leg in the world. And I want to know what makes a runner good at particular sections of a relay?
The main thing is just handoffs. You guys probably seen it before. You can have the world's fastest athletes, but it doesn't matter if you guys can't get the stick around. But what really worked well with me was my acceleration this year has just been a lot better. And me and the 3 other teammates of mine, like we all have chemistry. So, the only person that doesn't train with us is Noah. So what made me like really good at my second leg was just, doing what I do best. Like, hey, get off at this mark, accelerate as much as you can, because, Courtney's going to do his job. He's going to try to give me the stick. So I shouldn't worry about his job. I should only focus on my job. So as soon as you hit my tape, it's just like, okay, just run this like it's a race. I mean, it is race, but for me, it was kind of like, okay, I'm trying to get the stick, but I'm also trying to compete against all these other guys. So I'm trying to, roll them up if I can. And as soon as he hits the mark, I just go, put my hand back as soon as he says stick. It's clean, safe exchange. And then I just do my part by hauling my butt to the other exchange. And it's just the same deal. To me, it's not that difficult. I mean, a lot of people like to, I guess, add a little bit too much. Like, sometimes they just like to complicate it. Like, it's not as hard as it actually seems.
But you innately have to understand how your teammates are going to accelerate, how one will finish and how the other is going to accelerate, right?
Yeah, so we have our steps and everything. So, if I have Courtney, I mean, he's a pretty good starter. So for our steps, there was like 29 steps. And that's from, where I was at on that yellow mark to 29 steps behind. So once he hits that, it's like, okay, he's a good starter. So I'm also a good like accelerator. So that's why we also do 29 steps, because let's say if we did like 32 steps and as soon as he hits that 32 mark and I go, there might be a chance where we don't have enough. There might be a chance that I actually end up leaving him because we had too much, gap in between. So that's why 29 was safe for us, because they knew that, hey, Kenny can actually get out and Courtney's going to close. And yeah, you just got to understand all those things. You just got to find out, who works well in what position and how much steps do you need in between to make the handoffs as clean as possible. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to make everything, you're trying not to make the stick slow down at all in between exchange zone.
How much training are you able to do together? Especially for something like the Olympics, where you don't know what the team is going to be until really a few weeks beforehand.
Well, so we trained the week before for like 2 days, and then we went there the next week and trained for another like 3 days. So we had 5 days of training. Yeah, I mean, it's not as much as, what the other federations do. I know they train all year here and there, but I mean, you guys know we got just so much talent in the US that you got to make do with whatever. But for us, I think it just worked out just because we all live in Florida and we all live in Claremont at that. So it's like, hey, we go to Noah's track, work out there, do handoffs, and then he can't, he could have came to our track, done the same. But when it comes to Olympics, I mean, when I was there at Tokyo, I don't really know what happened, because, I was supposed to be there, but there's a lot of politics involved, and, I just wasn't in the process. So from what I heard, they only practiced a couple of days before the first round. And I mean, that's why you saw what you guys saw that year. But yeah, I mean, that's all we just got to do is just practice. I would say we should practice at least, a week before and the week of. But like I said, when you do that, just don't try to complicate things. I think sometimes like you can have something set and ready to go, but then if you do a little bit too much, then you can always bring in more like, oh, okay, well, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that. And I think that's what we were like contemplating, oh, should we do more? And they were like, nah, we're good. Like we've done this since high school. We know what to do, and everything was good to go.
I want to ask about the Tokyo 200. We have a...
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Because to me, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
But you were disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, it was my first go. That was just a weird. I mean, Tokyo was just weird. I mean, there was no fans. I was that close to getting the gold medal, and honestly, when I crossed the finish, I was like, kind of like, what happened? Because I always heard that Andre, he would get his butt kicked almost all year, and all of a sudden, when a championship comes, he just flipped the switch. So I was like, oh, okay. And then when I actually saw that, I was like, oh, okay, like he's gonna be on his A game. And I mean, in the semifinals, I think he broke the Canadian record. And in my head, I guess I kind of underestimated it, because I was like, oh, he's cooked. Like he looked tired and all that stuff. So I was like, okay, I got this. And then he pulled another a shocker in the finals and edged me out. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the time that I was there. I mean, I had a lot of fun besides taking COVID tests every single morning. And yeah, like I almost got the job done, and it was a great learning experience. Honestly, I think it was helpful because, it just said like, hey, I got a lot to improve on and I'm not the top dog. Obviously we got a bunch of people that have faster times than me, but when it comes to actually competing against, for the gold and all that stuff, I do, I step up to the challenge and I put down whatever I need to do to get the job done. But yeah, Tokyo it was a little stinger just because, that year was so great and then I didn't finish it off with that. But I was happy for Andre because I know his story and, he's a great athlete, great personality, and he's been trying to get it for many years and he finally got the job done. But, this year's going to be different.
We hear you on COVID tests. We went to the Beijing Winter Olympics. That was fun taking COVID tests every day.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, it was just so nerve wracking because, they did the contact tracing and everything. And, several people tested positive. I'm like, oh, I was just right next to them. I don't know if that means I'm going to get caught or something like that. So, just waking up, taking the test, not knowing, you get the test by like 12, don't know if you got it or not. And then once you finally get your results and you're like, okay, negative, you're like, oh, thank you. Like, okay, I'm good to go. But, there's a few athletes out there that tested positive and then they couldn't even compete in the final. So it's just sad to see that be taken away just because of, sickness that was going by.
What does life look like between now and trials and Olympics?
Right now, I'm training. I was supposed to go to LA, but after the time that I ran, I was just like, yeah, I need a break. Let me go back to the weight room, reset, just get ready for because I got Prefontaine in Eugene, Oregon next week. So yeah, right now it's just recover from the trip, eat right, sleep, practice, do whatever coach tells me to do. And then I think Monday we head out to go to Eugene, and then we're going to practice there a little bit until the race starts, get done with that. And I mean, after that, we'll just come back here and train for the next 2 to 3 weeks and get ready for trials.
When you're bopping around the world like that, how do you acclimate to a new time quickly?
Sometimes I kind of stay in between because like this race in Doha was 7:23 and I think we were 7 hours ahead from Florida. So depending on when the race is, if the race is like in the morning, then I'm like, okay, I got no choice but to force myself to sleep at this time. But if the race is usually in the afternoon, I tend to go to bed around like 2 or 3 in the morning their time, then wake up around 12 or 11. Because, I mean, we're only there for 4 days. So I'm just like, I don't want to force my body. Like, I don't want to force it into trying to get on the time because if I do that, I might wake up in the middle of the night and not get enough sleep. And then, I might be tired for the race and then I might run a little bit slower. So, I mean, it just kind of varies on where I'm at. If I have a lot more time, like more than a couple days, then I'm like, okay, I can try to acclimate to their time. But usually what I do is try to make sure to sleep at a certain time when I'm on the flight. So I take my melatonin and then, have my water and all that, go to sleep. And then, just simple stuff. I'll sometimes take a 1 hour to 2 hour nap when I land, just so I can not be tired by the time it's like 6 o'clock or something their time. So yeah, just depends. I mean, sometimes I go there and I'm great and I can automatically just get on their time and just whatever my body's telling me I listen to.
How much sleep is enough sleep?
As an elite athlete, I'd say 9 hours, but as a normal person, 8 hours. You got to make sure the body is sleeping enough in order to do something like this. But yeah, 9 to 8 hours is what I usually would tell people. If you're going 10 hours, then that's when I feel like, because I've done that before where I've slept 10 hours and I never woke up like, oh, hey, I'm great. Like I sometimes wake up and I'm like, oh, dang, I'm a little sluggish. Should I have slept that far, But yeah, sleep is one of the most important things besides, diet. Because it doesn't matter what you're doing. Like if you're eating all the nutritious stuff and, not sleeping, it won't matter. It won't translate because you're still beating you're beating your body into trying to do something it's not really meant to do. But yeah, for me, it's 9 hours of sleep. I try to go to bed by like 10:30 and then wake up around 7:45, 8 o'clock. And then I head to the track around 9.
Okay, absolutely most important question.
Yeah.
Which came first? The nickname Kung Fu Kenny or the headbands?
Oh, the headbands that I have now?
No. Just like wearing the headband, and that's how you got the nickname, or
No,
did
I've always had the headband on. So we had the headband first, and then we came up with the nickname. Because yeah, when I was in college, I had a few headbands I wore, and then once I became as a pro, I had a few headbands, and then the nickname came. So the reason why I became with the nickname Kung Fu Kenny is because when you watch track and field all the time, you have all the sponsors, Adidas, Puma, all of them. And the men all tend to look the same when it comes to what they're wearing. You're like, oh, there's a bunch of Nike athletes, Adidas athletes. There's not much character, I guess, when it comes to the actual jersey itself. So it's like I wanted to stand out. And we came up with Kung Fu Kenny because, we have the headband and I do the bow and all that stuff. And Kung Fu Kenny has a set of values that I tend to live my life by, which is humbleness, dedication, discipline, and respect. And I mean, for me, I live those on and off the track daily because that's like who I am as a person. I'm from Wisconsin, a Midwest guy, and I've never really been the type that's like all high energy and stuff like that. I kind of keep to myself. I'll go do my work, kick butt, and then I'm like, all right, deuces. I'll see you later. And that's why we came up with it because, I just wanted to stand out as an athlete. And it's a little bit easier for the girls because they have their nails, they have the colored hair and all that stuff. So when you see the track, you're automatically going to see like, oh, okay, we know who that person is because they're known for doing that or doing this. So, I feel like I've gotten to the point where, everybody knows me because of my signature headband. And what we started doing this year is everywhere we go, like when we went to Doha, we have something on the headband that has something of Doha. And then we also have like a quote or something. Like sometimes I'll put Kung Fu Kenny. But then for this race in particular, we had, because this, like I said, this race had 4 of my teammates. So this was like a fun one. So it was like, okay, I think it was like Fear None. And then it was like Curve Conqueror. Because we always say battle of the turns because whoever gets on the turn is going to win the race. So that's what I had on there. And then I think I had like a building structure. I forgot what it's called, but I've actually seen it. There's like a building structure on the side. And whoever's seen it, they know what it is if they're from Qatar. So yeah, like everywhere I go, you'll just see a different headband and has something that represents that country.
Very cool. That's a lot of fun, and that makes
Yeah.
it fun and makes you remember everything else too.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think the fans love it too. So, I mean, we just started that this year. I think the years previously, it was just kind of like, we'll just wear a nice headband, but now we're actually trying to have like a theme.
Well, Kenny, thank you so much for taking the time and talking with us and breaking it down. We're really excited to be able to talk to you a little bit longer than the media summit.
Oh, thanks for having me. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kenny. Kenny will be competing at the U.S. Olympic trials in the 100 meter and 200 meter on June 21st through the 30th. You can follow him on Instagram, X, and YouTube at Kenny_Bednarek. And on Facebook and TikTok, he is at Kenny Bednarek. And we'll have links to all of those in the show notes. I am curious to see what kind of headbands he's going to pull out for Paris.
He's got a whole line of merchandise that he sells.
And good on him. He was so nice. Like I say, I'm happy to have him in Shuklistan. I think we got a good chance.
Oh, I know. It's like the medal potential. I think we're ahead of Italy at this point. Je voudrais une voiture.
Ooh, that's pretty good. We have a lot of transit news today in Paris 2024 news. There will be a free shuttle service to remote venues. What do you know about this?
Yes. So there are several venues like Roland Garros and the canoeing venue and Versailles, and they are closing the closest transit stop to those venues. And they're also
like
not
metro station?
Yes. Okay. And some of them are not, they're off the metro. They're actually the train lines.
Oh, wow.
And they're not terribly close to those lines to begin with. So they're going to have shuttles running, basically buses, from the closest station that will be opened to the venue. So if you're worried about getting out there, apparently they're running once every minute, 2 hours before the competition, 2 hours after. So if you're worried about metro stations being closed, don't worry. There's a bus.
I am hopeful that those buses will be there.
And they're free.
Like that. Yes. So that is great news. Starting May 30th, we are on ticket drop extravaganza. So today, as the show is released, starting today and every Thursday until the games will be another ticket release at 10 a.m. Paris time. What's up with this?
So I don't even know what these tickets are. I assume these are tickets that federations aren't using or that they're not using for media blocks, that they have all these new tickets. You don't know what events are going to be dropped. You don't know what category of tickets. Every Thursday at 10 a.m., surprise, Paris 24 is going to release some tickets. So these are not part of the resale platform. These are new tickets that have not been previously available.
That's going to be interesting. So if you have thought about going, have been on the fence, more tickets are available. And France 24 had a story about hoteliers and rental agencies who are sad about the lack of demand for properties during the games. Some hotels thought they could command 3 times the price of a regular room, and now they're hopeful that they can get double the price for demand. And same on apartment rentals. This is a video story. We'll link to it in the show notes. High end, they're still pretty pricey, but regular apartments are now 1 to 3 times the cost that they would be for demand, instead of, say, 10 times the price that a lot of people thought they were going to get. There are twice as many rentals on the market than usual, so the market is oversaturated. And by twice as many, I think we're talking like 120,000 compared to they usually have like 60,000. So there are still hotel deals and apartment rental deals to be had, just like Ken Hanscom said. Marathon, not a sprint.
There has been some schadenfreude on the Facebook planning groups of people saying, yes, my Airbnb host canceled my room, tried to post it for multiple times the price, and now they're seeing that apartment still available. So if you're not happy with how much you're spending and you have a cancellation for your hotel, take a look. There may be some deals out there that then you can go and buy more tickets.
There you go. And also, if you didn't think that this would be possible for you, it might be starting to get into the realm of possibilities on a budget. So it's hopeful out there. Also, for getting around, several outlets have been reporting that Uber will have 40,000 drivers out there to help ferry you around the city. But look for dynamic pricing throughout the games. Supposedly, it's going to be limited to 10 to 15% surge pricing. I'm skeptical about that. I bet if there's a huge demand after an event gets out, I bet surge pricing goes up. But we shall see. They say 10 to 15%. They will have 10% off rides to and from airports and train stations. Uber's share is going to be cut by 30% for the whole duration of the games. So if make friends, that's what I think. Make some friends. Share a ride together. The app has also been approved for use throughout the city, including games time restricted areas that were previously for taxis only. So that map that's got the gray and the blue and the red zones, they now have better access to that. They do not have access to Olympic lanes, which I understand in some of the stories I read that there was a little grousing about that. No, Uber, you do not get access to those Olympic lanes. As somebody who will be using the Olympic lanes, and I understand they're going to look really empty for a lot of the games, but for journalists getting around, for dignitaries getting around, for federation people who have to get around, and broadcasters, they are invaluable to have.
And athletes. Remember the stories of people missing events because their bus was late?
Yes.
It's from like Atlanta, but I know that's...
But that can be a problem almost every time. Or if an athlete oversleeps and needs to get through on the Olympic lane. We can't... If you throw 40,000 Uber drivers into those lanes, then they aren't Olympic lanes anymore. I appreciate the privilege I get. We have more hospitality house news.
I'm so excited when you showed me the pictures of this one.
Casa Colombia is going to be in Parc de la Villette at a bar restaurant club called A la Folie, and it will be open to the public for both Olympics and Paralympics. We don't know if it's free yet, but they will have food and some shopping and consulate services if you are Colombian. The interior of the bar is, man, it is cool.
On fuego.
On fuego. Lots of bright colors, lots of patterns. It looks like it's going to be a fun place. We are now at 26 country hospitality houses with Pride. That does not include any kind of corporate pavilions or the pin trading house. So there are and not all of them are ticketed entry. Some of them are still free. So there is going to be a big opportunity there to go wander around, especially in Parc de la Villette, and see what the world has to offer.
Welcome to TKFLASTAN.
And it is the time of the show where we check in with our team Keep the Flame Alive. These are past guests and listeners of the show who make up our citizenship of our very own country, TKFLASTAN. We got some results.
So more results from Prefontaine Classic. Katie Moon won silver in women's pole vault, as did Deanna Price in women's hammer throw.
Excellent. And Corinne Lebecki won the Tour of Somerville with an amazing last-second sprint.
Please watch the video. We'll link to it in the show notes because the announcer loses his mind for Corinne, which made it even better. Jacqueline Simoneau will be competing at the World Aquatics Artistic Swimming World Cup event, very close to home for her in Markham, Ontario, May 31st to June 2nd.
Commentator Rob Snook was awarded Best Play-by-Play Announcer at the Canadian Screen Awards.
And congratulations to Dr. Renska Locke. She and her partner, Gabrielle Roa, were married in April.
That will do it for this episode. Let us know what you think of sprints and Kung Fu Kenny.
Find us on X, YouTube, and Instagram at FlameAlivePod. Send us an email at flamealivepod@gmail.com. Call or text us at 208-352-6348. That's 208-FLAME-IT. You can chat with us and other fans on our Facebook group, Keep the Flame Alive Podcast, and sign up for our weekly newsletter with even more Olympic and Paralympic info for you. You can do that at our website, flamealivepod.com.
On Monday, we'll have our next Paralympic episode, and we are going to head out to the dressage riding grounds to talk with a dressage rider, Beatrice de Lavette. We had a great conversation with her at the media summit, and you befriended a dog.
And Simba.
So it'll be time to get those pictures out again. Look forward to that on Monday. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, keep the flame alive.